Now that we have some of the properties of real numbers down, let's talk about order of operations. Chances are, if you know anything about order of operations, you've heard this Pemdas before. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. However, this is very, very easily misunderstood. Let's look at a problem. If we follow this acronym, the first thing to do is the stuff inside of parentheses. 3 plus 5 is 8. The next thing is the E for exponents, but we don't have any exponents in this problem. The next thing it does is says to multiply. Well, 2 times 4 is 8. We then divide. 8 divided by 8 is 1, and we're done. However, I'm saying this is actually wrong. We missed a key component in order of operations. Let's try again. We do still want to do the parentheses first. 3 plus 5 is 8. However, the M and D inside of PEMDAS are actually done on the same level. So we actually do these in order from right to left, or from left to right at the same time. So the first thing we actually do is 8 divided by 2, which is 4. And then 4 times 4, which is 16. And this is the right answer. So a lot of times people see this PEMDAS and think that they need to do all the multiplications and then all the divisions, but in fact you do want to do these at the same time, moving from left to right. The same works for addition. We do addition and subtraction from left to right, and not necessarily all the additions first and then all of these subtractions. Not to mention, this doesn't tell us the whole story, because what if we were to have a square root in this problem? At what point do we perform that step? So instead of our acronym, I'm going to bring it down to 4 steps. Step 1, grouping symbols. These do include parentheses, but it also includes braces and brackets, as well as a fraction bar. A fraction bar can actually be considered a grouping symbol, where one group is on top and one group is on bottom. Our second step, we're going to perform all of our exponents as well as our roots. In the PEMDAS, the roots was missing, which we pointed out before, but now I'm actually going to say this does count as an exponent, and we do it at the same time that we do exponents. Step 3, we need to do our multiplication and division. Like we said before, whenever something's in the same group, we work left to right. So we're going to multiply and divide starting at the left and moving to the right. Our final step, we need to add and subtract. Once again, moving from left to right, we do want to do these at the same level, just moving from left to right instead of all the addition first and then all of the subtraction. So now that we have the rules, let's do some examples. Here we have a problem, and step 1 says we want to work inside the grouping symbol, which we do see that we do have. However, unlike my first example, there's a lot of different operations inside this grouping symbol. So how do we know which one to do first? And the answer is order of operations. There's no grouping symbols inside of the grouping symbol. There's no exponents or roots, and then the third step is multiply and divide. So our first step is 16 divided by 4. Now that we've done that, we want to continue inside of our parentheses, and we can see the only thing we have left is our addition. So we just need to add these 3 numbers. And we can do this in 2 steps if we want, but since we're just adding 3 numbers, we could just add 4 plus 9 plus 4. Now that we're finally done with our grouping symbol, step 2 is exponents and roots. We don't have any of those. Step 3, multiply and divide, and we do see that we have 1 of those. We have this 3 times 5, so we know that that's just 15. Finally, we can add and subtract. 17 minus 8 is 9, and 9 minus 15 is negative 6. So now we have our answer. Here we have several grouping symbols, and these tend to throw people off a little bit. However, we can work through this. Our first step is grouping symbols. And we do have several of them, but when we dealt with multiplication and division and addition and subtraction, we moved left to right, so let's try that process. You can see the first grouping symbol we come across is the curly braces. So there's several operations inside of there. The first thing we do is move to order of operations. And it says step 1 is grouping symbols. And there are grouping symbols still, so let's move to our next grouping symbol. Our square brackets. Inside of there, order of operations says the first thing to do is the grouping symbol, which we do have. And finally, we're down to just one operation, 2 plus 1. So just work left to right and then go back to our order of operations once we find our first symbol. Once again, we started our first grouping symbol moving left to right. And inside of there, order of operations says to do the grouping symbol first. Inside of there, the first thing we would need to do according to order of operations is the multiplication, the 4 times 3. And then now we have the 12 plus 3. We're now down to just one grouping symbol, and 1 plus 15. That just gives us 16. So then finally, 2 times 16 is 32.